It's the Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. I'm your host, as always, Harry Wilmington. So I want to start by saying I'm technically still on vacation. I did a bunch of pre-recorded shows because I'm trying to take this month off because I needed a break and I needed to put together some new things for the website. But that said, I've been doing a couple of live shows because there's been people that have been leaving comments that the situation sounded so urgent in terms of either what they were dealing with or their emotional state that I was like, you know what? I can come on here. It doesn't take much to set up a live and I can do some live stuff. So that's what I'm doing today. So this one is actually going to be called My Triggers Are Ruining Our Relationship. And this is actually another response to the last live I did that was in response to a comment that a woman actually left. So this is actually responding to a woman's comments and situations with her relationship. So I had done a show called Did My Ex Betray Me by Hooking Up During Our Breakup? And basically overall in that show, I said that no, I said if two people are broken up, there's nothing that says that both of those people are going to ever get back together. And so one person may be just trying to move on and hoping that hooking up with somebody else will allow that to happen. And it doesn't always happen. So that lady, so a lady had left a comment under that video. And what she said was basically that she had been with a man and they broke up and they got back together. And in the process of that, he said that in a way for him to try to get over their breakup, he had drunkenly one night hooked up with another woman, realized that it didn't really make him feel any better about it, and really wanted her back. And so I don't know how they got back together. I don't know if it was a few months before they got back together or what, but at the point that they got back together, either he told her or somehow she found out that he had hooked up with somebody else during their breakup, and now she still kind of waited about that. And that message, she said that she was asking how can she, how can basically a guy say that he loves her, but also at the same time be able to so easily just hook up with somebody else. And so I did a whole video talking about the testosterone and how it's a chemical in our bodies that causes us to had that need needing to be met regardless of, because I've seen situations where like women will either break up with the guy or say, like in my mom's case, my dad died and she has yet to be with anybody else. And I know you guys are probably thinking that's not realistic. You're just saying that because she hasn't told you, yada, yada, yada. Me and my brother were like, hey, dad's gone. You can hook up and be with anybody you want. It's not going to bug us. But she was just like, I just never found that motivation. I already found my great love and I didn't need to feel the need to put myself out there anymore. Men are typically not the ones that are going to do that. More often than not, they're going to be like, well, I mean, I really do miss her. I want to get back with her. She doesn't seem to want me around. And so while I'm pining for her, I have these physical needs that my testosterone is saying that I need to have. And this person's available right here. And it has nothing to do. There's no narrative in our head about trying to, make this a thing or, putting some kind of story together about why me and this other person could hook up, or do you love them on some level? No, it's just, I have a physical need. They look hot and I want to do some stuff. And that's that as far as oftentimes we think it out. All right. But that doesn't take away that this guy in particular still had feelings for this woman, which is why he was wanting to get back with her. But now he's basically, she's feeling some kind of way about that and is still in her head about what that means. So I did this whole video responding to her, and I said some other things in the video as well. And so she recently left another comment under that video that I really want to respond to. Okay. Because here's the thing is that I think that there are things from our past and ways that we've learned to deal with certain situations or view certain situations that can actually cause a hindrance to us having what would be a happy relationship if we weren't in our own freaking way. All right. So let's get into this woman's comment to that video. So she said, thank you for answering. You're welcome. And then she said, when you get back from vacation, may I have some advice on how to make our relationship work or heal my trauma? I do love him and we are trying to work it out, but I get triggered a lot and I feel so betrayed. I don't know how we can fix it together. I've become numb while he's trying. I just need some tips to build the relationship back up. Stop the negative thoughts during intimacy. I don't want to lose my family, but I've pulled back. All right. So I did write down a few points I want to go over in reference to this lady's situation. Okay. So the first one, this is for the men out there. Okay. For the men, this is why you do not need to tell your woman every single thing you've ever done in your entire life with every single person that you've hooked up with. Okay. There's this thing that men have bought into of, well, in order to have a true relationship, you need to be honest, and you need to be honest with your woman about every single thing in your life. No, you don't. Like, realistically, you don't need to be telling her every single person you've hooked up with ever. You don't need to, if you guys have gone through a breakup and there was a time where you guys weren't together, anything you're doing during that time is for you to know. Unless you come back with an STD or you've gotten one of the women you're with pregnant, then in terms of like the number of people you hooked up with, when it happened, how it happened, she doesn't need to know any of that. Okay. And I think it's admirable for men that they think that they need to address that, or, on the off chance that somehow the woman finds out about it later, it's better for him to jump in front of it and let her know. But realistically, there are just some things that you need to know another person may not handle as well as you think. Okay. For example, I give you guys advice. I teach this stuff to you guys. I read the ins and outs of dating and women and relationships and all this other stuff. And I'm very well versed in all this. And I don't take things so personally anymore like I used to. Okay. And yet, every woman that I've ever dated or been with, I never asked them about previous guys they hooked up with. If I date a woman and we break up and we get back together later, I don't ask her about how many times she was penetrated when we weren't together. Why? Because I know that even though I'm the kind of guy that can still continue to date that person, something about knowing that number could possibly cause me to feel some kind of way. And so I don't feel the need to know that. And I know that about myself. I know that I don't think that knowing if she hooked up with one person or 20 people or 100 people is going to be a benefit to me knowing about her. Like, why would I need to know that she hooked up with 20 dudes? If she did, and I know some guys feel some kind of way about like, well, the more people that a woman sleeps with, blah, 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 blah. And that is all good if that's how you feel. My personal feeling is if she ain't coming to me with any STDs, or if she has one, but she's like taking stuff for it, or if she doesn't have any kids, she's not pregnant, yada, yada, yada. None of these previous guys are chasing her, trying to hunt her down and kill her and the next guy that she's with, then I'm pretty even keel. Okay. And so I say that because even me, I know there's certain knowledge of things that I just don't need to know about in order to make me feel better about dating a person. Okay. So in terms of you guys out there that are in the habit of getting with somebody and then breaking up, and then maybe a few months down the line or a few years down the line, getting back together with them, understand that you do not have to feel obligated to now divulge to this person that you're back with every single thing, because realistically, once it's in their head, they can't get it out. And you never know that thing that you're going to say or reveal about yourself to a woman as it pertains to people you've hooked up with that's going to mess with her brain, or in this case, like cause her to freak out. Okay. But again, even with that, guys, this goes into the next thing, which is that for everyone else, it is not the person you're dating's responsibility to fix your trauma. Most people are pretty well adapted at understanding the things that trigger them or that emotionally cause them to freak out. Okay. And so just because you know that, that's a good thing. But what's not a good thing is when that's not being fixed. So in this situation, we have a woman that is clearly saying, hey, how do I work through healing my trauma? So what she knows is that however she's responding to this particular situation is a trauma response. She had a guy that really, really cared for her and wants to be with her and loves her. And yet she's triggered by the fact that she heard about him hooking up with somebody else, and now she feels all betrayed and stuff like that. Okay. And that is definitely the result of live show people. Hold on a second. That is the result of previous trauma. And the reality is that that's not his job to fix. If she recognizes it, great, bravo for her. But now it's also her job to get to the bottom of it and fix it. Because I can assure you, let's say her and this guy don't work out. All right. She's going to go into another relationship and a guy's going to say something or have a belief that's slightly against hers in some way, or reveal something about his past, or even they might have a conversation where he says, when I first met you, I thought that you were kind of, off-putting a little bit. And then I got to know you. And all she'll be thinking is, oh my God, he thinks I'm off-putting. What did I do? And so she's going to consistently be having trauma responses to various things and not always know what the trauma was in her past that resulted in her reacting a certain way. Okay. So to that, I say that, especially as men, we sometimes feel like if the woman we're dating had a trauma in the past, we try to be understanding of it. We try to help her get to the bottom of it. And then we want to be the guys that are wearing superhero capes that come in and fix it. And guys, I've been that guy. I'm telling you, you cannot fix a person that has been through trauma. It is the person who went through the trauma's responsibility to fix that trauma. So that means having to go to therapy sessions and talk about things and really get to the nitty gritty of why it is that these responses are so. Now, I understand, for example, she said she's feeling betrayed. So maybe in her past, one of her parents wasn't always there for her, or in the previous relationships, guys would just up and leave her and whatever. And so she could be thinking, like she said in the previous one, if he so easily can hook up with somebody else, who's to say that he's not going to just drop her at the drop of a hat? And that's in her head, that is a realistic possibility that could happen. But the reality of that is that is, again, a trauma response, and that needs to be talked through, which leads to my next point, which I wrote down, which is feelings. Very important. Feelings are not facts. Okay. So in this case, this woman says that she feels betrayed. Just because you feel betrayed, it doesn't mean you were actually betrayed. Now, the problem with this is that, unfortunately, our brains and our bodies, in an attempt to try to protect us, can't always tell the difference between the two. So this is why, when you go to a scary movie, going to a scary movie, you're about to see some fiction. It is not real. And everything that's happening on screen was made up by writers, and their CGI effects that aren't things actually not there. Okay. And yet, when we go to see movies, our brains trick us into thinking, oh my God, the stuff I'm seeing on screen is real. Oh, I'm screaming. Oh my God, I'm crying because this person died. What's going on? Because the brain can't really tell the difference subconsciously. Okay. So when you feel betrayed, your brain's setting up a reality that says, this is actually a betrayal. The thing this other person did was actually a thing they were purposely trying to do, either behind my back when we weren't together, whatever, but he was purposely doing this thing out of malice. And then we start making up reasons. Well, it's because they really didn't like me, or because they really wanted somebody else the whole time. And I was just a person they were with in the moment, but they could get with anybody. So therefore his love with me isn't that special. And our brain will give us these stories to connect with the feeling that the betrayal is actually happening. But realistically, there was no betrayal here. He hooked up with another woman because you guys weren't together. He didn't step out on the relationship. He didn't actively seek this woman out. He was trying to get over her. And so he was drunk and decided to hook up, and then decided after that, you know what? I tried the thing and it didn't work. I'm going to still get back with her. And as far as I know, she didn't tell any of the stories of him hooking up with anybody else. So again, no betrayal actually happened. But again, if your trigger responses are resulting in this viewpoint, then it's going to feel like it's real when it's not actually real. All right. Another thing is that how you're responding right now is based, again, on previous traumas and how you've dealt with these kind of situations in the past. But ultimately, you have control over how you decide to react to the situation. Okay. Meaning that the thing happened. You found out, oh my God, he hooked up with somebody else. So you're thinking it's now an uncontrollable thing. Oh my God, I'm having these reactions. Oh my God, I'm triggered, blah, 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 blah. But you have to get out of that mindset, because that is a victim mentality. The reality is there are survivors of SA, physical harm in a very, very physical way by men that women have gone through. And a good amount of those women, they purposely know that that's the thing that they have, and they go to therapy and they work through it, and they learn to take control of the situation, whereby even if, say they're in bed with their husband and they start feeling he does a certain move, and she suddenly feels a trigger of oh, this is what the guy that, harassed me back in the day did. They're able to go to therapy enough to where they get through that trauma and say, okay, but it's my husband and it's totally fine. And I'm going to choose in this moment to realize that he loves me and is not trying to harm me. And therefore, I'm going to let him do the thing to me in bed that we always do in the first place. Okay. So you can't be holden to this idea of, well, I just feel this way, and, he really did betray me and all this stuff, because you're going to lose out on possibly a really good love situation. And you're going to lose out later in life when things continue to pop up and you're not able to get past them. Okay. So again, you can have control of your reaction. A lot of the reactions that we have to things are based on previous patterns. Think about the first time you were afraid of a spider, or that you were consciously afraid of a spider. Chances are from ages like 1 to 4, every time you saw a spider and then your mom saw it, she was freaking out. So you just learn over time to freak out when you see spiders. You don't even think about the fact that that was actually a learned response, versus there are people that grow up in the woods and they see spiders and bugs all the time, and they've taught their kids, these bugs do this one's fine, this one might be a little poisonous, but if you treat it like this, you're totally fine. And because they were raised around it, then there's no harm, no foul, and they don't have a hard reaction to it. Okay, so your reactions are habit. You can change the habit of how you react to situations. If you're used to thinking about the fact that, a guy, when he breaks up with you, hooks up with somebody else and you get hurt by it, learn to not be so hurt by it. And again, I'm not a therapist, so I can't walk you through that. You need to go to a therapist and say, hey, I notice I have these triggers, and when these things happen, I feel this way. Or my boyfriend I broke up with my boyfriend. He hooked up with somebody else. He got back with me. He told me about it, and I reacted this way. I don't know what the deal is, okay? Because I'm assuming most therapists would be like, that he didn't betray you, that's not a thing. But you need to hear the ins and outs of why, and then you need to learn what kind of new patterns you need to have, new kind of thought patterns, to be able to react in a better way when you start hearing stuff like this that aren't really actually things, okay? And then lastly, and this is very important, okay? Because I'm saying all this about like getting over the trauma of it, learning to deal with the fact that the way you feel about things isn't always how the reality actually it is. At the end of the day, you're in a relationship with this guy currently, and the way that you're responding to all of this is not fair to him. I'm going to repeat this again. He did nothing wrong. Now, you can logically hear that and still say, but I still feel like, and again, that's something you need to work on. But ultimately, you have the right to decide how you decide to react to this incident. And so if you find that you're not realistically able to get past what you're considering to be a trauma of some kind, or a betrayal of some kind, or whatever, then I would argue that it's not fair to him for you to stay in the relationship while you're still feeling these things. Because again, he did nothing wrong. But actually, here's what he did wrong early on, is that he shouldn't have told you that he hooked up with anybody. I think he should have kept it to himself. I think he wasn't aware that telling you that kind of news, because he's probably had a situation before with previous women where they broke up, got back together, and there's just an assumption that when you guys aren't together, things are happening. Hey, I've done the thing of like break up with somebody or hook up with somebody for a while, don't see him, and then get back together. And then it's like, again, I assume while we were broken up, they hooked up with other people. So I don't go into it thinking any kind of negative thoughts, or that, well, I had one girl one time, we went on a date, and then we didn't see each other for like 11 years. And then we reconnected again and hooked up a few times. It would be dumb of me to think that in 11 years, she'd hook up with nobody. Like nobody. Like, I know I'm great and all, but nobody. My ego is not big enough to think that she would not actively seek out other partners during the time we were broken up. Okay. So whether you guys are broken up for 3 months or 3 years, when breakups happen, it's all systems go, and nobody's at fault for anything, okay? But if you feel that way and you can't get over it, then I would consider talking to him about what that means for your relationship, because realistically, he doesn't deserve the torture you're giving him. He's trying to do everything he can right now to be in your good graces. And that's, again, and for guys out there, this is why also you don't go begging to women for their forgiveness about stuff. A, you shouldn't really be apologizing all that much anyway, because you should mean what you say and say what you mean. But also, you definitely don't apologize for things that you have no reason to apologize for, because then it says to the woman, oh, you actually believe you did something wrong. And this is the case where this guy did nothing wrong. Okay. But yeah, you need to talk about that and be like, look, realistically, I know I can't handle the fact that this thing happened. And so, we got to figure out how to remedy that. Either it means you're going to therapy to figure it out, or you're going to let this guy go so you can get with somebody else that's going to understand that this isn't a big deal. Like, nothing about this is a big deal. Now, again, I'm not a therapist. I'm just a guy that's real. And real talk, you're kind of messing this up. Like, real talk, like, he's not doing anything wrong. And whatever your traumas are in the past, I don't know you that well, so I don't know what those things actually are. But I would highly recommend seeing a therapist for them and trying to get past this, if you feel that this guy and you could truly be long-term mates or whatever. Now, if you're just not feeling that altogether, you have every right to dump this guy and start off with a new guy. But I'm saying, I think that it warrants you looking at yourself and seeing what it is about the situation that's really bugging you. Because again, nothing he's done so far is wrong. So hopefully that helps you out. And, I got a comment here. Oh, she tuned in. Oh, great. So that's all I can say is that, ultimately, I think that it sounds like a pretty decent guy. I mean, you didn't mention him again, hooking up with any other women outside of the one that he talked to you about. And I don't know what you were doing during the break, but this is really like a non-issue. And I think that that's something to consider, that your reality of this being a betrayal and how you're feeling about it is drastically different from how like 99% of the world will see it. Like, I have yet to meet a woman that would be like, well, my ex with somebody else during the break, and so I'm so devastated. And I've definitely been, again, reconnected with women who didn't ask me, hey, during a break, were you hooking up with other people? Chances are I probably was, and they probably knew it, and they also knew better to ask, and I knew better to talk to them about it. All right. So just some food for thought. But anyway, hopefully, lady, this helps you out. And yeah, for any of you guys that have questions and things you want me to answer, leave them down in the comments below, and I'll be sure to answer on one of these shows. That's it. I am Harry Wilmington, and I am going back to my vacation, people. So I will see you all later. I'm out. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Introvert Dating Success Podcast. Visit us at introvertdatingsuccess.com for more great tips on attracting women using your natural introvert charm. Oh, yeah.